Hi, Michael.
Hello, Bonnie.
You can hear
Oh,
me. Great. Okay,
we
let me
don't
just
have
something. I'm gonna
video.
make you a co-host.
Okay.
Were you able to get in as a panelist?
Yeah,
Great.
great.
Yeah, nice.
There we go.
See the background? You can pick the background. We do have some attendees already. So this is already recording, just so you know.
Okay, great. That means I can share the screen soon.
Yeah, you could keep up the first page if you want.
How about now? Do you see it?
Yes, but I also see all of your slides on the
There you
left.
go.
There we go. That's good. Thank you. Very good. Okay. And then let's check the Q&A. Okay, good. I see that's up already. That option's there. Let me see if Kemet is amongst the attendees. Sometimes, if you don't log in as a panelist, then you show up at the attendees list. He's not here yet. Okay. Let me invite Kemet just in case he's having trouble logging in. I don't know. I think not you, but maybe Dave. Okay, captioning is on. I'm just gonna turn off my video for a second, Michael, and give Kemet a call and see if he's having some login trouble, maybe.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone. We're waiting for one of the speakers, and he's having some technical difficulties logging in, so I'm trying to sort that out. So thank you for your patience. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Our speaker is having technical difficulties and cannot log into Zoom right now. But when he does, he may have a chance to say a couple of words. Welcome to the pre-submission conference for the new construction Notice of Funding Affordability 2023. The last NOFA we had was December of 2021. And today we're going to be going over some of the requirements, specifications, guidelines around this around NOFA, and taking some questions as well. So we have a Q&A section of the Zoom. Feel free to put in questions there. What we can answer during the conference, we will try to answer, but if it requires a little bit more, detail, we will definitely post all of these questions on Badingo, and you can see the answers there afterwards. And we will also be posting a copy of the slides as well. So I think with that, Michael, we can start our presentation.
Okay, great. Let me see.
Thank you. All right, so our notice of funding availability for the 2023 round one is going to be funding per unit capped and by siting policy category. And if you recall our previous siting policy, we had categories 1, 2, and 3 when we went to council for it, but later on these were condensed to two categories. So the old category 1 areas are now called affordable housing expansion areas, and the category 2 and 3 are continued investment areas. And if you'd like to see that in more detail, there's a link that we're providing to look at the siting policy categories so that you can check what area your project, your proposal is going to be in, whether it'll be in category 1 or 2, or affordable housing expansion area or continued investment area. Kemet, I had just started. Did you want to say a few words? I hope you can unmute.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Banu?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, great. Seems like my video is disabled. Oh, now it's working.
We can see you, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the conference. We're very excited about this $50 million NOFA and the opportunity to bring more affordable housing to the city of San Jose. Of course, we review our developers as partners in this process, and we really appreciate your input and questions, and we look forward to working with you and supporting you in the process of generating affordable housing. So I guess with that, I'll turn it back over to Banu and Michael, and we can start going through the NOFA. That'd be great.
Thank you, Kemet. Michael, I think we can move to the next slide now. Thank you. So as Kemet mentioned, this year's NOFA is for a total amount of $50 million. And this would include funding for acquisition, and that's usually 100% of loan to value, as is appraisal value. And also it's available to fund construction and permanent financing for new affordable housing projects. For this round of NOFA, the funds are going to be distributed as you can see on the slide. If your project is in an affordable housing expansion area, you can apply for up to $325,000 a unit. If your unit mix, the highest unit mix you have there is 60% AMI or below, and then $200,000 per unit if your project is located in a continued investment area. If you have 70% AMI units, there'll be a cap to that. The maximum you can get there is $50,000 a unit, regardless of which siting category it's in. Next slide. So I'll just go over a couple of the threshold requirements. Eligible applicants need to meet all threshold requirements. This is section 4 of the NOFA. And we are asking that you submit all of the necessary documents. along with the complete application checklist and form. That's an Exhibit A, and you should be able to see the attachments and exhibits on the Biddingo site. And some of the threshold requirements are, for example, a site control. So we want to see that the project has a feed title or executed ground lease, executed purchase and sale agreement, an enforceable option to purchase. So these will be, you're providing that you have some kind of site control over that property. In terms of project readiness, we would like to see that the projects will be ready to apply to TCAC or CIDLAC for a round in calendar year 25 or 26. The previous NOFA that we had, which was December of 2021, there are still a few projects awardees that are left that we haven't taken to City Council yet. And those projects will be having priority in terms of going to City Council before the projects that will be awarded in this round. Next slide, please. Oh. Environmental assessment. We'd like to see a phase 1 and soil testing report to see if there are any environmental issues or concerns on the property that you're proposing a development on, and how these environmental issues will be mitigated or addressed, and if possible, what kind of cost that would entail. And if the phase 1 is requiring a phase 2, we would also like to see the phase 2 report. In terms of leverage, we want to see maximum use of the available funding sources, proposing a financial stack that has, maximum use of any available sources that you've gone after. So senior debt, the city's debt, the tax credits, equity, all of that. And then in terms of feasibility, we'd like to see a 55-year pro forma, not a 15-year, a 55-year projection. And you have to also demonstrate that the project is feasible under 4% or 9% LIHTC, whichever one you're planning to apply to. So you could submit documentary evidence on what you think your score would be if you run some scenarios, and which LIHTC program you're going to be applying under, whether it's 4%, 9%. This would be very helpful. Next slide, please. Option to purchase or ground lease. So we may require that the city requires a borrower to execute an option to purchase in terms of its loans. And there's a ground lease policy that is in our underwriting guidelines. So if you check the section 8 of our underwriting guidelines, you will see the city's ground lease policy there. And typically, the city will purchase the land from the owner, the developer, the project, and lease it back to the project for at least a minimum of 55 years. And there are cases where, if the county is also lending in the deal, in the project, the county and the city will discuss who may purchase that land and lease it back, whether it'll be the city or the county there. So we've had scenarios, examples like that. In terms of our bond issuance policy, our bond policy states that the city will have to be the issuer on all bonds financing multi-family housing rental projects within the city that receive any awards under this NOFA. So if you are getting funding from the city will need to be the bond issuer. And so you cannot be getting funding from the city and then you're doing the bond issuance outside with an outside agency. And for the remaining threshold requirements, please review section 4 of the NOFA document. Next slide, please.
I can go over these slides, Bonnie.
Go ahead.
So,
thank you, Michael.
Getting into the scoring, this will be section 5 of the NOFA document. So as you can see, starting off with the project readiness and planning entitlements section, this is for 10 points that you can get. If you have already started on planning entitlements, then you can get 10 points. If you have not, and you haven't really had a conversation with our planning department, then you get 0 points. Next would be cost effectiveness. We try to really set a high bar here. So if you can get per unit cost to 800,000 or under, you get 10 points. If you're in between 800,000 and a million, you get 5 points. And of course, if the per unit cost is above a million, then it's 0 points. And then we have the next section, leveraging city funds. We have, if your funding request from the city is 150,000 per unit or less, then it's 20 points. If it's more, 0 points. And moving on to the big section here is family housing. This one has a caveat. If you are providing only 1 bedrooms or studios, really the maximum points that you can get in this category is 10. But if you do provide 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, you can see it quickly ramps up 1 per unit for 2 bedrooms and 2 per unit for 3 bedrooms. So in this case, really, I think I have a slide on this later on that you can see. Moving on to another big category is the average affordability mix. So for the average affordability of the whole project, it has to be under 40% average AMI to get the maximum 40 points. And then we have a 40 to 45%, 40 to 44%, I'm sorry, is 30, 45 to 49 is 20. And if you're above 50% or 50% average AMI, it's 0 points. And then the last category for the base project points is the supportive housing. We have, if you have PSH or RH commitments for 20% of the units or above, you get 20 points. If you have commitments for less than 20% of the units, you still get 10 points in this category, and then 0 for none. And that will make up 140 total project points that you can get awarded before bonus points. And I forgot to mention here that the threshold, really the minimum you need to have from these categories is 70 points before you're eligible for the bonus points. Moving on, as I was saying, we do have a section here kind of demonstrating the minimum number of units you would want to have to gain the maximum number of points in the family category, in the family housing category of 40 points. If you have 40 2-bedroom units, you can get maximum 40 points. But if you provide just 20 units of 3 bedrooms, then you can already max out with the 40 points in this category. And it says a project must utilize more than 1 unit size type to receive points in this category unless all units are 2+ bedroom units. And we'll say here again, a maximum of 10 points will be available for 1-bedroom units. Moving on to average affordability mix, the city priority is to commit 40% of our available affordable housing development funds to ELI housing, and projects demonstrating average affordability under 40% AMI is crucial and will earn 40 points maximum. And for supportive housing, the 20 points is also available for 1 point for each percentage of supportive housing units being provided for homeless or formerly homeless households. Moving on to the bonus categories, we have quite an extensive list for this NOFA. The bonus categories, there are a total of 130 points that you could be eligible for. First one, going through one at a time, I can go through maximizing density. For 10 bonus points, so the projects that maximize number of units permissible under the site's general plan will receive 10 additional points. And then for food access plan, this is another 10 points. And proposals that include space for access and distribution of healthy food will be given an additional 5 points. But then if you also have a 1-page written narrative, you'll get 10 bonus points. So you do need to meet the design requirements and have a 1-page narrative for the 10 maximum points in this category. For childcare facilities, this is another 10 points. Projects located, I believe this is attachment D that you can look at for the priority zip codes. But it'll be in the attachments for childcare facilities. So the project located within a priority zip code for the childcare center and are willing to redesign their building to accommodate a childcare center will receive 10 points. And in the next category, we have city-owned sites for 15 points. Proposed projects to be developed on currently city-owned sites within the appropriate readiness category may receive an additional 15 points. And then we have co-developments with emerging BIPOC and community-based developers, 10 bonus points. And sponsors that partner and propose a co-development projects with emerging or BIPOC or community-based developers will receive an additional 10 points. And then I think we have another 10 bonus points available for increased access for disabled people. So like it says, projects which commit to providing an additional 10% of accessible units beyond the building code for disabled people receive 5 bonus points. But then if you host an inclusive design workshop on top of that to gather feedback and recommendations, that'll allow you to receive 10 total bonus points. So this is a little bit of a clarification that might not have been clarified in the NOFA document, but this is 10 bonus points, and you need to provide both the inclusive design workshop and the 10% additional accessible units. And then you have the non-tax credit financing plans. So if you do have a project that does not have tax credit financing in there, we do want to incentivize that. So this is 10 bonus points. And if you're proposing an alternative source, such as the HCD's accelerator program, you will receive an additional 10 points. And for 9% TCAC applications, so projects that anticipate applying to TCAC's 9% round in the coming 24 months will receive an additional 10 points. This one is a clarification that we will be making shortly to the NOFA document. I believe it was published with 12 months, but after looking it over, we need more flexibility and a little bit longer timeline. So the 24 months will be an update. And then for the other anticipated subordinate financing, this one is a 25 bonus points, but from below you can see 10 points for HCD funding, 10 points again for county funding, and any other subordinate funding sources, you get 5 points. So if you have all three, you can get 25 bonus points. Project-based vouchers is the last category. It's proposed projects that received a conditional award letter from the Santa Clara Housing Authority will receive an additional 20 points. And that should take us all the way up to 270 points total. And then Banu, I think you can take it away here.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We will consider the following tiebreakers if you get, if you're at a tie with other applicants. The final award will be determined by the 4 points that you see here. Projects that have the lowest average affordability mix, percentage of extremely low income units at 30% AMI, percentage of permanent supportive housing, PSH, RRH, units restricted for homeless or formerly homeless families, and then percentage of TAY units. So these are the 4 criteria we'll be looking at in your proposals if there's a tiebreaker. Next slide, please. A little bit on the application process. You can obtain a copy of the NOFA application or the attachments to the Bedingo site after you create a profile. And then applications are going to be due Wednesday, November 29th before midnight. We will check the completeness of the packages and provide notices if there are other, some items missing, and we'll look for incomplete items, and we'll send notices by Friday, December 8th. Responses to requests for clarification are due December 15th through email. And then if we get late submissions, that disqualifies the application. Next slide, please. This is a table of the important dates. So we're holding the pre-submission conference now. There's a deadline for submission of questions, which is October 31st. So you can submit, if you haven't submitted here in the conference, your questions on Bedingo as well. And we will be taking a look at those, posting the answers. The answers will be posted by November 13th. And then application deadline is November 29th. Again, as I mentioned, we'll check for completeness December 8th. And then the awards will be published by January 8th. There is an appeal period of 10 days. So you can submit your appeal by 3 o'clock on January 18th. And then we'll have a final notification of the NOFA awards on January 26th. Okay, I think I already mentioned, so like all questions, you can submit your questions on Badingo, and then the questions that were submitted here, we will also post on Badingo later. And we're going to try to address some of the questions today, but those that we won't be able to address, we'll definitely post the answers to all of the questions that come up today on Badingo by November 13th. So that brings us, I believe, Michael, is that the last slide?
That should be.
That brings us to the end of the presentation. So I think what we can do at this point is look at some of the questions and see if we can answer them. I think I've written answers to 2 of them already. So there was a question on whether we're giving priority to projects from the December 21 NOFA, and if there was a percentage of this $50 million NOFA going towards any of the priority projects, and the answer to that is no. None of the 50 million will go to the prior 2021 awarded NOFA projects. And then there was a question on why we're requiring a 55-year cash flow projection versus other applications where you're submitting maybe 15, 20, 30 years. Our permanent loans are 55 years. So we'd like to see 55-year cash flow projections. Okay, not dedicated, but you would say that there is anticipation that given they have priority, some of the 50 million would go towards those priority groups. Okay, so I don't know if I'm clear. The $50 million NOFA that we are publishing, that we are making available through this NOFA, is available to the applicants of the awardees of this NOFA. It is not going to any priority awardees. So I hope I was clear on that. Assuming the project is not using LIHTC as a funding source, the project readiness is deemed not applicable, or only projects using LIHTC are eligible to apply. No, we have a section where we're, scoring section where we're saying, if you have a non-LIHTC financing solution, a proposal to your project, the city is open to that. And our scoring, as you can see, we have bonus scoring based on that too. So if you have no LIHTC, financing planned in your financial stack, that is fine. That doesn't mean you're not project ready, because you could have another solution in place ready to go. So the project readiness in section 5.1, the 10 points, is more about entitlements, not necessarily whether you're using LIHTC or not. Did you want to add anything to that, Michael?
I can answer the planning entitlements part. Just the in progress does mean I see some anonymous questions coming through. What does it mean? What is the threshold for in progress for planning entitlements? Would a pre-application and or SB 168 consultation for SB 35 eligibility constitute in progress? I would say yes. If you do have communication with the planning department and you do have a preliminary review with them, then you are in progress.
If you submitted nothing to the planning department, that means you've initiated nothing in terms of planning entitlements, so you don't get points. But if you've already submitted an application and it's in progress, you would get your 10 points. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other project readiness questions, Michael, there, or did you address those two? Those two were the only ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Is soil testing required if the phase 1 report does not identify any environmental issues? Here's the reason we have it in this NOFA. Although sometimes the phase 1 is not identifying, specific contamination issues in the soil. At times the project can be located in an old agricultural area, and our environmental group will require soil testing. So this is why I'm recommending that you provide soil testing report. So we don't have to come and ask for it again later. If you know exactly where your project is located, and if it was on an agri soil, then our environmental group is going to be asking me for soil testing. So I'm giving a heads up on that. Okay, next one. Do you want to take the next one?
Sure. For the family housing scoring, does the manager's unit count towards utilizing more than one unit size? So if there's a project of all studios with a 2-bedroom manager's unit, would that project be able to receive points in this category?
Wait, are these two separate? These are two separate questions.
So
does the manager's
they're
unit count
related.
towards utilizing more than one unit size? The manager's unit doesn't count towards this scoring we're talking about, because that's an unrestricted unit. Am I right?
Yes, I would say so. So if you do have all studios and just a single 2-bedroom for a manager, you would not receive points for this category.
And by the way, manager's unit, we would recommend that you think about at least the 2-bedroom. It'll be, I think it will be easier to recruit if you have a studio for a manager's unit. That's more difficult. What was the second part of that question? Did we address the second part?
I believe that was the second part.
Was it? Okay. Okay. Would AHP count as other subordinate financing? AHP.
If it's not from HCD, if it's not an HCD program or county funding, then it would be under the other subordinate financing for 5 bonus points.
Okay, next question. Would you please elaborate on what is considered anticipated subordinate financing as far as what commitments need to be in place at the time of application? Or is this in reference to possible sources of funds the project intends to compete for? Both. I mean, you could have a ASIC award already, or an IAG award. You could have a county commitment already, or other sources, or you could be anticipating applying to these various other subordinate financing sources. And Michael, jump in if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I was typing up an answer for this question that can be posted to the bingo later on. That goes into a little bit more detail, but if you're intending to compete for other sources of funding and you're getting points for these other subordinate financing and you happen to not win the award, there's not going to be a situation where the city comes in to fill in that gap. Because in this NOFA, all our awards are final. We do not have extra funds to fill in gaps that you do not get awards for.
Correct. I would agree. So if you have plans to apply, let's say for an ASIC round or some other type of funding sources, please do indicate what round, what date, when you anticipate to get that award. And just know that if you don't get the award, like Michael mentioned, we can't step in and fill that gap. What's the next one? If the project is not using 4% bonds as a source, but expects to have general application bonds issued by with this project. Okay. You know, if it's another financing solution, we would appreciate a description of how it works, how the financing, and what the financing structure is like, and the city will, would like to learn more about that. So we are looking for innovative solutions to the funding. And this isn't something that we can immediately say yes or no to, but we want to see various sources and solutions to the funding financial stack. So you would still be eligible to apply. I think this brings back to the first question. You don't have to be a LIHTC applicant to apply to this NOFA. We're looking for various funding solutions. You can apply with a non-LIHTC project where you have some other type of bond. Maybe it's not the 4%, or you're not applying to a 9% LIHTC, but you have another kind of bond solution. And, if you can inform us on what that is, how it works, what the financial structure is going to be like, then the city will assess that accordingly. How many projects are you anticipating to be funding with the NOFA? Should we answer that? I don't know.
We can take a best guess, but
I think it depends on the the average commitment amount that will be requested. So if projects are requesting $5 million a project, so we would have quite a number. But if every applicant is asking for $20 million in subsidized funding, then you can guess that we wouldn't have much at all. So it really depends on the average request.
Yeah, we don't have a fixed number of projects in mind that we're going to select.
Thank you, Kim. In attachment C, it's not clear what standard would apply to projects with 51 to 99 units. I think we may have to take this one on later.
Yeah,
and
this one,
publish
we
this
can
one.
take a look at the attachment again.
Yeah, because I'm not
familiar.
familiar with the detail there. I'll have to dig it up and look at it again. So
Yeah.
we'll answer this one later. Next question. How can you assume the accelerator funds in lieu of tax credits in your financing plan if that program is currently unfunded?
Well,
That was just an example. I mean, the HCD may have an accelerator fund in the coming year or may not. They may have some other kind of funding. It was an example of a project that we had done before, where there was no LIHTC and there was an accelerator funding. So we just provided that as an example. That was the only reason, really.
for this one, the soil testing results, yes, it can be provided after the application deadline, of course. Just that we expect to have it by the time we take the project to council for commitments.
Thank you, Michael. Where are we at? Jacqueline's question. If applying for tax credit, NOFA reads to submit both TCAC apps as 4 and 9%, is this correct? Or just to submit for TCAC application? I mean, whatever you're thinking to apply to, and if you haven't decided yet on whether you'll apply to 4% or 9%, you can submit both scenarios. But we would like some clarity and decision made eventually, I mean, early on, so we can plan our pipeline accordingly as well, as the city is a co-applicant on the 4% applications. So it would be best if you knew which one you were going to go for and provide a scenario for that. Michael, did you want to add anything to that one?
Not just that if you do feel that you are competitive in the 9%, we did ask for in the Exhibit A, the scoring sheet, to complete a scoring sheet and the tiebreaker sheet from TCAC. So if you do believe you're competitive for 9% and you know which round you're going for, I would suggest you try to apply with a 9%. Because you do get bonus points for that.
Yeah, and the earlier you decide on that, the better for the city too, so we can plan for our applications, co-application pipeline. Any questions left?
Then the last question was, how many did you fund in 2021?
We had 19 applicants and we awarded 11 projects. It was $150 million NOFA. And so we have 4 of those. Well, we have 5 left that we haven't closed financing on. One out of the 5 has obtained council approval for their commitment. 4 hasn't gone to council yet. We were oversubscribed for that NOFA. Yeah, Kim.
I would just say we had a wait list last time, and we probably will utilize a wait list this time as well.
Thank you. I think we have one more. Oh, we have a few more. Okay, sorry. Do you want to take the next one, Michael?
Sure, let me read this one. The NOFA requires applicants to develop and implement a community engagement plan. Only the plan has to be submitted by the deadline. The implementation can come after that. Yes, you should have a plan submitted by the deadline, and of course, implementation will continue after the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, we expect a detailed community engagement plan, and when time comes for implementation, to involve the city as well. That's pretty important. So
yes, if you do have meetings after the deadline, you should be involving us so that we can attend as well.
And if you've already had some community engagement plans, please make sure you talk to us. Mention that in your application and what kind of feedback you received. The underwriting guidelines say that resident services expenses in operating budget can be negotiated if enhanced. or increased levels of services will be provided, with the city required to allow an increased services budget requests. This is based on discussions with the city. Once you submit your proposal, we're saying that we're open to discussions around it.
Okay, that's all the questions that we have in so far that we can answer right now.
Okay. So I think we only have one that we'll have to come back to you all on, and all of these questions and answers will be posted on Bidingo. Any other questions? Anybody have their hands up or anything? I see you. No. Shall we give it a few more seconds to see if you have any more questions? Please feel free to post them on the Q&A. I think that's, wait, hold on. Do we see anything else, Michael? Oh, how many projects on the city-owned land in the pipeline? I'm not sure which pipeline, the current pipeline? Is this the question?
I think it might be talking about the current pipeline.
I think is the question,
Oh,
do we have any awardees from the last NOFA that are on projects that are proposed on city-owned land? Is that the question? You think?
oh, it says which may compete for the NOFA. So it's for this NOFA.
We don't really know until we see the applicants. I mean, some proposals on city-owned lands, some developers are ready to submit a proposal, whereas others aren't ready at all, and they're still going through entitlements. And so we won't know until we receive the applications.
There are also questions you can submit to Mark Gerhardt through the email as well. So if you don't get your questions submitted in this conference, you can always email them.
Okay. Any more questions before we end the conference? I encourage applicants to try to do their best to submit as complete an application package as they can, and really take time to understand what the requirements are. Incomplete packages can really delay the whole process. And sometimes, I mean, even though we notify the applicant of what's missing, we don't necessarily always get the answers right away. And what happens is they may end up in the wait list or not qualify at all. So I encourage all of you to work diligently on all of the items that are required.
Yes, go through the Exhibit A for the checklist and then make sure you're including everything applicable in the checklist. Because,
Question here, Michael, can a previously completed phase 1 be used for this application?
I believe we have a
Yes.
time limit for the phase 1.
I think it should be at least, I mean, not more than a year old. And we will most probably ask you, we will ask you for a refreshed one. If you get awarded and, you know, we go through the whole process and we come to construction financing closing, the senior lender would require it anyway. So I mean, all of the lenders will want to look at it, refreshed phase 1 if it's older than a year, for sure. And a phase 2 if it's requiring a phase 2. Hopefully it's not. I'm just giving it a few more minutes, Michael.
So for as you're going through the Excel form and the checklist, if you do see other questions that you may have, you can always email them to us. But I think the application process this time is a little bit more streamlined with the checklist form. So just anything that's applicable to the project, just make sure it's included.
I just want to add on there are some new, I mean, if you look at the old NOFA versus this one, in terms of requirements and thresholds, there's some differences. One is that the maximum density per general plan. And if your proposal is not maximizing the density of that plot, you would please take time to answer why. But if you are maximizing it, provide the evidence, because this really can provide you extra points, and it is important for the city. So please take time to explain that to us. How recent do soil testing results have to be? I think we could go with the general guidelines of the phase 1, at least 12 months old. But if it's older than that, I mean, we can discuss. I mean, if it's 5 years old, that's very old. So that's why we're saying 12 months.
You said at least 12 months old, but of course you meant less than 12 months old.
Less than, thank you, Kim.
That's fine. It's
within a year. Because if it's older than that, we're going to ask you to refresh it. Quite a lot of questions, but we do appreciate it. It's better we address a lot of questions now than to get a lot of questions later. And hopefully this will help you in your applications.
Yeah, I think we're good, Banu. And they have the Bedingo process through which they can submit questions as well. We're available as a staff if you want to email any of us. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone's participation and coming out today. Michael and Banu, you did a great job. Thank you for that. And we're excited, and we look forward to getting your applications. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And Michael, thank you. Kemet, Chelsea,
Yeah.
thank you. Have
you,
a good day,
everyone.
everyone. Bye-bye.